Hello, saltines. Get comfortable. Wrap yourself in a blanket if you can. If you're at work or you're driving, please don't do that. But if you're driving to work or
What? You don't want them to work or drive?
no, I'm like,
Yes, they should all be independently wealthy like us.
Yes.
I was talking about probably don't close your eyes while you're driving, but whatever.
Or
Anyway,
pull up a blanket.
or stop distracting me.
Drive with blankets.
Yeah, why not actually? Like
I
you can
love
do, like,
you. Will you please stop distracting me so I can do the things I need to do?
Sure.
I'm about to grab you guys.
Oh,
I'm going to have to execute disciplinary.
we could probably use it actually now that you say that. Oh God. The grounding and the discipline. Okay. Austin, how would you like to start our episode this evening?
Like to start our episode. I would like to start our episode off with a little bit of a meditation. Okay. So, what I would like everyone to do is we're going to do a quick centering. So, go ahead and take your left hand, put it over your heart, and then you're going to take your right hand and you're just going to slowly apply about 5 pounds of pressure into that area. Keeping focus on your breath and maintaining a rhythmic breathing cycle. This doesn't have to be a fourfold breath or a threefold breath, just a rhythmic breathing cycle for you. And as you're exerting that pressure, think almost like it is making your energy heavier, creating a center of gravity around you that pulls your energy in, brings your energy, your power back, brings it back to center. You are the center of your own reality. You are the center of your own universe. You are the center of your power. Now, letting your hands release that pressure, keeping your eyes closed, we're going to turn our attention to just above our head, just right up, just a couple inches above the ground. And we're going to breathe in, letting energy flow in through the top of the crown, down, down.
Oh my God. I couldn't keep it together either. Oh my
Okay, look. Okay.
Look at animals.
Austin's trying to heal the saltines.
Ugh.
We did a whole thing for like 20 minutes. We got into a thing, and Austin was guiding us through this meditation. I'm balls deep in this meditation, and then the dogs start going, and we look at each other, and we realize that's gonna fucking ruin. If somebody's like, "Oh, I'm gonna just ASMR this shit right now," just put it on my head,
Mm.
and so the dogs are taken out and we're ready, but then when the cat meowed, I
They
I'm
Totally.
so sorry.
no, I couldn't keep together either. The podcast management is trying to sabotage us tonight.
The podcast management is like, no.
They're doing a pretty damn good
What your
job.
saltines need is joy. What your saltines need is laughter. So,
We can make fun of.
so it's okay. Here's the energy work that we're gonna do. We're gonna put your hands on your belly,
Okay.
and I want you to breathe in,
All right.
letting that belly expand, and you're going to just breathe out. Breathe in. One last time. Breathe in, letting that breath expand. And just a big sigh of relief. Breathe in, letting your shoulders go all the way up to your ears. And then as you exhale with a sigh, just letting them drop. Again, breathing in, almost like you're tensing up your entire energy field and bring it in really, really, really close. And then you sigh. One more time. Your energy should feel like it's pumping a little bit now. It should feel a little bit more fun. And thank you, management, for not disrupting that one, because I probably would have lost my shit. Anyway, hello and welcome.
In a good way. In a good way, right? That was we'll take that as a sign from spirit that the calming, centering exercise that you initially planned just wasn't the one. Right?
People we're not able to calm and center. It's not a good time to calm and center.
Why? Why is it?
I don't know. I could throw some astrology at it, but I was really just joking.
Well, I think a lot of the stuff that you gave us on last week, 2 weeks ago, our prior episode would again be particularly relevant this week, because we're kind of hitting some of those planetary alignments right now.
It's the day before the exact conjunction, but
yeah. So it makes sense that a lot of us are like calming and centering is a bit of a challenge at the moment. Yeah.
I feel so bad because the damn thing was so nice.
It's okay. I remember it.
Maybe we could put it on outtakes.
There you go. Or, we talked about doing kind of in between our episodes, little freebie, not freebies, because they're all freebies, but little extras, little extra things. Except you deleted it, didn't you?
Yes.
Oh,
well,
that's
so
okay.
maybe you can still do the exercise that you want to do.
Yeah.
What I could do, I have an idea. All right. Anyway, so welcome. We have a really cool podcast tonight. Hopefully won't keep you too long. We had a really great time last time. I think it was just a really good, it was a really good reinvigoration and reawakening of just what we're trying to do and what we want to do. So thank you for coming with us on this journey. And just look forward to some more things that are going to be really, really, really helpful. Maybe I'll even throw out some spell recipes or something like that hopefully will aid the Saltines in their little journey. So
you did actually say on our prior episode that you would be sharing some things like that.
Oh,
so that's twice you said that. No, so now you're committed. Now you got to do it.
I did last time.
Not like right now necessarily, but yeah, that's true. You did. Yeah, that's true. You did share some.
You did a ritual for a cursor.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. With the pyrite and quartz and all the other things. That's true. All right. Okay, you win this round. Okay.
So with that being said, I'm going to hand everything over to my cohorts here. I'll chime in as usual, but I think we're starting with Mia with astrology.
Yeah. So, astrology is astrology.
Yeah. Tell us about the stars.
Let's learn a little bit about what's going on. Okay. A little checklist is the main event, the large stage, the main stage is Mars conjoining Jupiter. It's technically almost exact right now. And think of Jupiter as the expansive, everything it touches, it's like, yeah, let's go, let's keep going. And then it's right on top of Mars. Mars is war and violence, but also, libido and energy and the need for creativity and, strategy and all that. And so together they're conjoined in Gemini. Now, Gemini is not super happy hanging out, Jupiter is not super happy hanging out inside Gemini. It's in its detriment or fall or whichever it is. It's not happy. And
it's not happy.
It's not happy. And well, by tradition, is not happy. But I look at this as a tarot card, thinking of Mars as the tower card, thinking of Jupiter as the wheel, and you have those together, surrounded by like or enveloped by the Lover's card. That's a party. That's kind of a party to me. And something that I've noticed on some news stuff is this thing that people are saying, joyful warrior. And I think that's very much an archetype that could summarize like a warrior, Mars, having Jupiterian or joyful energy.
Mhm.
But this excited little mixture is getting ambushed by Saturn. Saturn's wanting it to calm the party down.
Mm.
Okay. So we might be internally feeling a lot of, oh, I want to do that so bad. Oh, I could do that. And you have this idea, but then it's like, well, I don't know how I'm going to get there. So I'm going to put it on the shelf for a second. But to an extra degree, might be some inner angst that's kind of pulling one way or another. So this will let up a little bit, I believe, on the 15th, when the moon gets right out of the opposition, because it's in Sag. It's right in opposition with this conjunction, creating like a little just ambush scenario for all that creativity. Where does it go? Well, you might be super reactive this week. You might be, just like angry and kind of forget why. And or you remember why it's something you stepped down for a minute, and Saturn's like maybe throwing in on the party. Let's get mad today. But when the moon goes into Capricorn on Thursday, I think we can expect a little bit of ease. That's when the conjunction starts slowly pulling away. And then the moon in Capricorn is so practical, kind of can help us go, oh, okay, well, here's the idea I want to do, and I'll do that. And then great, it's planned. Now I'm gonna go take a nap,
I love that.
But there is a big day. Let's scan through on the 18th. The 18th of this month, well, the moon will be in opposition, is just after the full moon, it looks like. What was the thing everybody was yapping about? There was some kind of on August 18th. Oh, is that the Cassini? Okay, I'm sorry. Yes. Mercury is already in its retrograde. We already been done. We're feeling it. It's in Leo, so it's gone backwards into Leo. On the 18th is when it conjoins the sun, and whenever a planet conjoins the sun, it's called a cazimi. It's kind of like a little kiss, like a little bit of relief, right?
Okay.
Because Mercury moves so fast, when it does that little retrograde and then it touches back to the sun, and it's like, it's a little kiss, it's a little bit of relief, or a little bit of you're drowning, and then you come up for air and you're like, oh, that's the way I need to swim, and then you stop drowning. I don't know
Okay.
the situation I just said. And then that looks to be the Mars Jupiter stuff still going to be in effect, and it's going to be in sextile with that, so they'll be getting along friends. So there might be positive creativity, maybe you're feeling angsty about, and it finally is released. It's finally like, oh, there's like material start happening for it on the 18th. And yeah, those are some fun astrology things, I hope.
So
I don't know if I might give my little allegories any use, but hopefully that was useful.
So what
So-
you're saying is we can blame the stars for our misplaced anger.
We can always, in fact, when you study astrology, the main reason you should study astrology is to blame everything on the stars. That's my goal.
Isn't that what all of these practices are?
I
mean,
just want
basically
to. I want to
anything occult, anything spiritual, it's all just to help us learn more creative ways to avoid personal responsibility, right?
Yeah,
That's right? Yeah.
that's what I
that
get
it?
from astrology. But no, to be like, I was just joking because I've been spending too much time on Threads online. But that my brain went there because people are like, stop using astrology to excuse your shitty behavior, and it's like, but I mean,
Can't-
Mercury is, and there's a little Jupiter, the Mars, the anger, it's expanding. Come on, why do you make me hit you? I don't know.
Why there's certainly there's a balance there, right? I mean, I think
Stop hitting yourself. Stop hitting yourself.
I think there are I think it's good. But we talk about this a lot at the shop, I think. You know, it would be I don't think you could really put your belief in some of the spiritual concepts that we do, particularly the concept of animism, and then say, oh, well, there's nothing to astrology, right? It's
Right.
like, are you an animist or not? Because if you
Yeah.
are, you must believe that these planetary intelligences, these planetary powers, and the movements of these bodies, these celestial bodies, have influence on our behavior.
Yes.
We can see that very clearly with the gravitational influence of the moon on our waters and our oceans, right? I mean, so there's something going on there, and so I think that it comes down to the way that we balance that information in our lives, right? Like we can't say that these external forces hold complete responsibility for the things that go on in our lives day to day, right? Because at the end of the day, we still have the choice to modulate our behavior and to make the best choices given the circumstances available, and all those things, right? But
no,
because
Mercury is in microbraids.
Yeah. So we can be shitty and but where you're
going
getting
is totally correct.
Is really good. Like coming from an animism, like a witchcraft standpoint, is like, yeah, of course, like we have a little pantheon of these animistic gods swirling around the sky, hitting our natal charts, all going at certain, arguing for our souls essentially. And you look at a natal chart and you see where the gods ended up sitting in your life, and I don't know where I was going with that, but it's like we all have our special myth. Oh, that's where I was going. But yeah, the animism of it, but even like there's something scientific to it too. There's something like that has not been measured yet, because I mean, how come nurses always report like, apparently that's a real thing where like if it's a full moon, the ER's full.
Yeah.
Shit gets crazy on the full moon, and then it affects the tides. It's like there's something we haven't quite measured, and it goes out to literally stars.
Yeah. Well, you were referencing that on our prior episode, historically, because astrology has been in practice for as long as it has now, we actually can go back historically now, and we can see like every century with this particular planetary alignment, like, oh, there's been a plague. Oh, there's been a stock market crash or some other huge economic downturn. Like, so we can see like it's almost like we actually have almost like this map, this planetary map or calendar now. And so even if you wanted to try to put more of a scientific lens on it, you can say like there is something to this. And so it's amazing. So we need to consider it, but we also, again, we still need to remember, like, I'm responsible for me.
I'm handing you a plate of Jupiter and Mars.
Thank you.
Okay, and you decide what to do with this. Okay, I have this excitement thing, and I have this Mars thing, when I punch someone, when I sex someone, and then you figure out what to do with it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
And it all makes sense because you're both. I'm a Gemini.
Ew.
But then you have the Mars.
I have my Mars.
Jupiter.
Oh, this is so cute. We have Mercury retrograde, Jupiter, and Mars. Because Jupiter originally ruled.
Yes. Yeah, the old Hellenistic system, but now Neptune's kind of got me covered.
think you're too
And
good.
then Toby, who's the son, obviously.
Yeah, well, he would have to be.
Duh.
He's a lion, tiger, dragon, cat. Are you going to be disruptive again, sir? Oh, you're so drunk. Okay, he's stumbling across the back of the sofa. All right, Mia, I would really like to talk about Tarot Mafia.
Oh, okay. All right, here's the thing. Tarot Mafia.
Can we talk about it?
We can talk about it.
Okay.
Actually, yeah. Rather than talking, you can listen, chat.
Okay.
But I'm gonna talk to you guys.
Yeah.
So Terra Mafia originally started when I was in a relationship that I had realized was the American dream, essentially. You get married and then he wants you to, and then maybe you have kids, but I don't know, do we want to have kids? And then it's a very unhappy relationship. But this is what you're supposed to do, kind of thing is going on in my head.
Gotcha.
And I realized when I was fishing something out of my closet, and one of my tarot decks fell on my face. And I was like, I realized at that moment that I hadn't touched my tarot deck for like 3 months. Like I had gone, and then I thought, well, what did I even do with it? And it was something silly, like I read for someone on a game Discord server or something that was not meaningful.
Okay.
That's not how I was using the tarot. And I'm like, why am I putting this in the closet and putting that all away to fit this, relationship? And it became this I say angst a lot because I think it applies to so much, but also I'm an Aries, so it's kind of my word. But it drove having my tarot cards fall on my face and made me realize the stuff I had been hearing, in internet land, and when I'm passively somebody's posting like, oh, and I heard this thing, you can't get a tarot deck unless you've been gifted one, you can't use anything else except for this specific weedsmith. I'm hearing these old things that I grew up with, like these old barriers to getting into tarot. And seeing these young kids, sometimes they would restrict themselves into, well, I have to be very careful and secretive about my tarot because I don't have anyone to teach me. I don't have any mentor, they don't know what books to get and they're just excited. And maybe they get really self-important in some avenue because they think they all of a sudden know everything at 16 years old. It's kind of part of the passage of 16.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
so all this is stirring in me. And I say, fuck everything. And I pull my own tower card movement and I break up with my boyfriend. I say, I'm going to go teach tarot in the local community. I'm going to find out where do I fit in? And the people who, I know that there's going to be people who are going to be learning tarot to rip people off. I know there's going to be people who are learning tarot for, whatever shitty, that I would deem shitty reason, a surface level reason.
Yeah.
And then though, there would be the people who take tarot and they use it to heal themselves or start reading for their family, and they start doing family events, and they start, being able to see things in a different light. They really start taking the archetypes within the tarot into themselves, and it makes a difference for them somehow. That was why I was going to do it. And that, my friends, was what I said, that's Tarot Mafia. And then I went and I called around, or not called around, but I went on Facebook looking, is there anyone who would let me teach a tarot class for free? I just want to teach a fucking tarot class. And, meet some weird people. And some people who I didn't know who they were, and I wonder if they were offended that I didn't know who they were. I don't know. Anyways, but I remember going to that one shop that I first, and my friend Brandy. My friend Brandy, I first met her. Um, and she had a notebook in her hands. She was the only one. There's 20 people showed up. Bunch of people the first time I did it.
Okay.
20 people show up. Or, probably like 15.
Yeah.
I exaggerate. But she was the only one that had a notebook. And she had the Shadowscapes Tarot. And the Shadowscapes Tarot that's a story for another time, but it's a very, very special deck to my heart. And she was Tarot Mafia. And so I think I had this vision for it of what I wanted to turn it into and how I wanted to initiate people into fucking Tarot Mafia, gang style, like, okay, read for me right now then. I don't know what I do, some kind of read battle, but had this vicious, like, let's fucking do this. Like, I know there's other people like me. I know there's other people who believe in tarot like me. I'm gonna fucking find them. We're gonna fucking take over the world. Like, we're gonna fucking have a union or some shit. And but I think that it's been so deflated for me because Randy passed away.
Yeah.
And she was the only one, like, just what she became to represent for me as her. She was Tarot Mafia. What she was using tarot for to heal from a divorce.
Okay.
And so I don't even know where to go with it anymore. But at the same time, I don't want people to take it from me. And so I do want to tell people about Tarot Mafia again. But I don't know what to really do with it because the one thing I thought it was happening organically, like she's not with us anymore. So like, I don't even know what to do with it. I'm just going to be real.
Well,
I don't know.
it sounds like, one of the reasons that I kind of wanted to talk about this on the podcast is I wanted to have a venue for us to kind of like get this out there, because as you and I have talked about this, it does still seem like it's something that is still it's still becoming,
Yeah.
and I like that because that means that there's still room for it to still become,
Mhm.
to still be ultimately what you need it to be now, which
Yeah.
will have to be different than maybe what it would have been a year or so ago.
Yeah.
Right. But in bringing that up and in sharing this and having this conversation with our saltines, I think really the purpose and why I thought it would be good, for another reason why I thought it would be good to talk about this on the podcast, is I think that this is a really kind of a cool, based on your experience with tarot, as a scholar of the tarot, as a reader, as a I think scholar,
priestess.
as a
priestess of the tarot.
as a student, as a teacher, as
Yeah,
a
no,
whatever, as a
Tarot goddess.
I just thought I'm just a goblin. I'm just
goblin,
a
as a goblin of the tarot, as a tarot goblin.
goblin of
Anyway,
the-
I think that one of the things that I liked about Tarot Mafia, as we discussed it, and one of the things I think will be of relevance to our saltines is along that discussion. And I think that this is something that we could, maybe bring up on the podcast again, maybe in a later episode, but I kind of thought it would be a good opportunity maybe to discuss some of the importance around what Tarot Mafia represents as tarot as legitimate spiritual practice, as tarot as a component of personal and self-care practice.
Yeah.
I think personal expansive practice, I think, but also within the community, within just the networks of people that you see around tarot. I think, again, the importance of continuing to have discussions around ethics.
Yes.
How I think more and more, because the community of practitioners, the community of people that we see out there professionally providing tarot, reading tarot, teaching tarot, whatever their involvement with tarot, maybe the people who are continuing to do that at a professional level, who are ethical,
Yes.
who have really learned, who are doing the work for the right kinds of reasons. And I'm not trying to say that making a buck while you're doing that is a bad thing.
Oh,
It's
hell
not.
no.
We all have bills to pay, but beneath that or I should say, just, before that, your intent should be the work itself.
Yes.
Right. And so I think that because we are in an industry, because we are a community around a particular type of work that doesn't really have a lot of regulations and a lot of rules and a lot of policing, which is both a good thing and a bad thing.
Yeah.
I think it's important that, again, that we continue to have these kinds of conversations and that we have systems in place, that we have practitioners, groups of practitioners, that we have voices out there continuing to kind of talk about how, like, hey, this is how you can spot a bullshit psychic.
Yes.
Hey,
Yes.
this is how you can recognize that the tarot reader that you met with today was a bullshit tarot reader, and yeah, they might have memorized the textbook meanings of their cards, but they were still a bullshit tarot reader because they did these things that were just completely unethical.
Get you into like, oh, there's something over you. This card means this, but there's something over you. I need $400.
Exactly. They were shady. They planted fear in you. All those things that we've talked about on the podcast before, right? And again, just to be clear, when I say bullshit, I'm not talking. When I say that, I'm not questioning their intuition. Yeah. Because intuition is something that comes and goes. It's never a constant, and it fluctuates person to person. But I'm talking about, like, have they learned all the other things that they really need to really be putting themselves in a position to be doing spiritual work for others? Because a lot of people haven't, and it's something, like I said, that I think that we need to continue to talk about. Yeah. So for me, there's I think the thing I liked about,
I get fired up about the ethics, and that to me, ethics was that's what made it gangster. We're had just joking, oh, we find out that somebody read your cards and just wasn't even looking at the cards, they're just reading you, and they don't care, they don't even believe in tarot. It's we watch them, and and then we go beat their ass. It's the straight edgers, tarot mafia. But I don't, our version of that, what I want is educating people who not just readers, because readers are already doing their damnedest to be the best they can. Yeah. They can only just keep doing what they're doing. But teaching people who like to get readings what to look for if you feel uncomfortable about this, and this,
to be aware of behaviors like cold reading. Yeah. And things like that, right? So you could recognize those things going in, are you meeting with a psychic, a card reader, whatever they may be calling themselves, who is asking you more questions than you're asking them. Yes. Because
there are ethical, in my personal practice, I had a hard time identifying with the term psychic because I would wonder that maybe I saw something on them or something subtle, just identified something in me that I had in the back of my head. Yeah. And so I would think that was cold reading. And so I would tie it back into the card, though. And I would avoid just staring a person up and down and be oh, they have a white dog, white hair on their clothes. Yeah. I'm gonna tell them their dog is gonna die. Yeah. Exactly. Shit like that. Unethical cold reading.
Yep. That's what comes up a lot of the time. I dig that, and that's why years ago I got into the habit kind of for that same reason, because I think I can't speak for everybody out there, right? Because I'm not everybody, right? But I think the majority of the people out there, regardless of how long they've done something in this kind of work, in the kind of work we do, I think regardless how long we've done something, I think regardless of how knowledgeable we are in something, how whatever, right? I think that there are always going to be those moments where we have just a tiny little bit of imposter syndrome come through. Yeah. And I've had moments like that over the years, particularly with my skills as a medium. And many years ago, I actually got into the habit of facilitating or doing my mediumship sessions. I would close my eyes. And I remember the first like the first little while I started doing that, having a few clients come in and asking me like, like, does that help you focus, or, and at the time just kind of going like, yeah, because I didn't want to have to at the time get into the conversation with the like, this is actually me working with me and my balancing my insecurities, one, but also making sure that I'm staying ethical so
Yeah.
that I don't inadvertently like say something like I could legitimately be getting communication from a spirit for you, and I'm going to say the thing, and it could be something as simple as a change of expression on your face, and I'm going to know like, got it.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay,
And
yeah.
from there, the rest of the reading is easy. I can tell you whatever I want.
Yeah.
Right. And it's not that, and in no way am I trying to say that there are a lot of mediums out there doing that. I'm not trying to imply that at all, but but so I think for me, there was a combination, or there were many reasons for that. But so it's funny when you talk about closing your eyes, to make sure that you weren't like seeing like white fur on a
like
shirt
if
or
you
something.
see-
Oh,
yeah.
hello.
It's like, what are you gonna do with seeing the white hair on the shirt? Tarot Mafia would, if there's a dog that happens to come up in one of the damn cards, you say, I noticed that you have some pay hair on here, but from this card, it triggered this thing in me where I'm seeing this, and describe the dog in goddamn detail, what you're seeing, and say, so I just want to be real with you that I do see I see, animal hair, but this is why I'm bringing it up, is a legit vision I see,
Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay. All right.
And this
I
is why we
just-
love Mia, because Mia is ethical as fuck.
Hell yeah. I just wanted to talk about it a little bit. I wanted to bring it up because it's my hope that as like the coming weeks and months progress, I think it would be really fun, just given some of the other conversations that we've had for us. And maybe these could be some of like the extras that we do kind of between episodes even, or something like that. But I think it would just be really fun to do like little tips on like, hey, how you can spot a cold reader, or
Yeah.
hey, how you can better prepare yourself to get the best reading possible, or hey, these are the most common things that you'll I don't know. I mean,
like
I
the
just
comment, yeah, like
like-
like we did the class on the archetypes of different clients.
exactly.
That
Yeah.
you're always
exactly.
gonna get
Yes,
certain
because
clients
Tarot
that fit
Mafia
into
isn't
here.
just for people who receive or are like typically the client. The
Mhm.
Tarot Mafia is about the people who are giving the readings as well,
Yes.
right? And what could be a benefit to them also.
Yes.
Right. And so I don't know. I love when you brought that up. Like, to me, I know you're like it's gangster, but the way you were describing that to me, it was almost like there's like a very punk element to this.
Yes.
And I kind of love that, because for me it's like, let's take this kind of back to its
The
roots.
Sex Pistols of Terror.
Let's bring that. Well, I don't think that's
I
a
know.
very good comparison. I don't know, for all the Sex Pistols claims to be punk. Oh god, there are going to be people watching the podcast.
Yeah, we
that are,
can't get into the punk rock.
no. Oh god, this
Punk
is
star with the claw.
I was going to say, yeah, the Sex Pistols are always attributed to punk, but they were also an extremely problematic group of gentlemen. Anyway, that's okay. Well, another different podcast.
They're better than G.G. Allen.
Yeah, that's
We don't want to be the
Yeah.
G.G. Allen of tarot.
no, we certainly do not.
It's a happy punk band. We want to be the Blink 182 of tarot.
Yeah,
But like
are they punk?
pop punk is punk in my opinion.
And I'm trying to think of a happy punk band, and now I'm like, oh god,
Or like
are
a
there any?
healthy, what's a healthy, successful punk band? No effects. They got far, right? Is that
I was like Black Flag. I was thought Black Flag was pretty.
let's be the black flag of tarot.
I don't know if they were happy necessarily, but they were like.
But they stood for good shit.
Yeah.
Okay.
So-
'Cause yeah, I always saw the patches, but I never.
We could just be the Rage Against the Machine of Tarot.
I'm not gonna lie. They're my most overrated band.
I'm gonna
I'm
kind of
sorry.
agree with me.
When I hear Zach's voice, he is a sexy man.
Yeah.
And I love what he stands for. And I've always loved the idea of Rage Against the Machine.
Mhm.
But Zach's voice kills me in combination with the guitars. Great guitar plays, but it just thinks something shouldn't go.
Yeah.
And so I need to confess that. I was born in 89 and I think Rage Against the Machine is overrated.
It's okay. You're okay. You're
You're in
safe
safe
here.
space.
Do you feel
I feel
do
lighter.
you feel unburdened? Okay,
I do.
all right, okay.
I'm gonna
Good,
admit
good.
something right now as
Oh,
well.
who do you feel is overrated?
I don't feel anyone is overrated.
Oh. The AFI of tarot? Are we all making
That's
it?
not for them.
Are we all confessing things? What are you going to confess? Now I want to know.
I was gonna say, when I was a kid, I thought Avril Lavigne was punk,
She's pop punk.
I know.
and I to this day love Avril Lavigne. Even hey, yeah, girlfriend, no way, I think you need a new one. Yeah,
You know, she's pop punk. Back when she first came out, I was very angry because she's an Aries and she was wearing neckties, she was wearing ties over wife beaters. I thought I was original.
She stole that from you?
She stole that from me.
Fuck you, Avril.
No, but
Canadians.
she's an Aries. I can't be mad at her.
Y'all were just like on the same.
We were on the
wavelength.
same wavelength.
There you go. Okay. All right.
But when she first came out, I was like, fuck her, fuck this shit. That's not punk. Listen to Casualties, that's punk.
Okay.
But yeah.
It's so we're not having the dogs here.
Why?
I don't know. There's like a lack of energy.
Yeah, there's like no punchline.
You mean like you mean we're able to actually focus? Somewhat for us anyway.
I'm feeling radically understimulated right now.
Anyway, so yeah, so Saltines in future, I do be anticipating, I think some nourishing tidbits here and there on Tarot Mafia.
Let's bring the saltines in the Terra Mafia.
I think so.
Let's give people
You
initiated.
will all in time be a part of Tarot Mafia. As led by the oh my gosh. Okay, so when
By the Goblin of Terror.
the Goblin of Tarot. Okay, but if it's the Tarot Mafia, so when a dude
And a
runs the
Dawn?
mafia, it's a Dawn. So it'd
Is
be a
it-
Donna?
I'd
Can't be
pick
a Dawn.
Dawn. I don't mind.
Donna?
I could be Dawn.
The Donna of the
I'm
Tarot
the
Mafia.
Dawn.
You're the
The
dog.
prima donna. The prima donna, the first
I'm
lady.
the fucking Dawn.
The first lady of the Tarot Mafia, the prima donna of the Tarot Mafia.
You know, I'll get a ring
There you
and
go.
people kiss it. But
Okay.
I'm making it up for your kid.
Yeah, you could like stuff cotton balls in the sides of your
I'm
mouth.
making it up for your kid.
Oh, now you just sound like Jennifer Coolidge. Okay.
Oh my god.
She was in that movie I
Yeah.
watched that I rented on Amazon. She played that kid's mother, and she is just always delightful. I love you, Jennifer Coolidge. The likelihood that you would ever see this podcast is not good, but
unless she's a witch.
but you are delightful.
If anyone knows Jennifer Coolidge,
Send her the clip shot.
yeah,
There you go.
but don't let her hear my impression because it's really bad.
That was not. But you can do a good impression.
I can't.
That was
my voice
not.
isn't high
That was
enough.
not a good
Oh my
impression.
god, you know we're avoiding something.
Are we avoiding something? Oh,
We're avoiding talking about healing after or disillusion.
oh, okay. So okay.
We're avoiding tough
Mia
subjects.
keeping us on
Oh
track.
my
Okay.
God.
Okay. So we're gonna. Does that make you want a hot dog real bad? I know you're
Oh,
dying to
hot
say
dog
it. I know you're
real
dying to say that
bad.
woman has done so many movies and has so many brilliant one-liners in movies, so many brilliant, and that is the only thing people remember her is that fucking line that she did in Legally Blonde.
Oh, that's Jennifer Coolidge
Jennifer
with the
Coolidge.
bend and
Yeah.
snap.
Yeah.
Bend and snap.
And then Snap. Yeah,
I
that's
love
her.
her.
Yeah, she's awesome.
She is a Barbie. I wish that I could evolve into her when I'm like,
She did oh god,
Years
I
older.
love her in Best in Show. And yeah, anyway. So anyway, I wanted to talk about so I mentioned something very briefly on our prior episode. I mentioned one of the reasons that we were not around for I thought it had only been a month, but when we went back and we looked at the prior episode that we recorded, I learned that actually it had been closer to 2 months since we had recorded anything, and I felt
Oh
even
my
worse. Jennifer, Miss Coolidge, please just we're recording. Okay. Anyway.
Sorry.
I love that. I just saw a glimpse of like your star power come out right now.
My story.
Yeah. I don't know.
I don't know what that means.
I don't know.
Okay, you'll have to
Like I
explain that
just
to me.
like saw this
Okay, you have to explain that to me.
confidence and
Okay.
like bitch. I don't know. I
Oh,
just saw some
okay.
kind
Oh,
of
geez.
like
Okay.
star power
Okay.
thing.
Anyway, one of the things that was going on, okay, while we were away. Okay. And this wasn't, to be honest, this wasn't just during the 2 months that we were gone. Okay. This is something that actually has been really kind of happening over the course of really the last year.
It's
Okay,
the reason we've looked so weathered and haggard for so many episodes.
Bitch, speak for yourself.
It's true, my love. You are always impeccable. I always look like shit.
I might look weathered, but I am not haggard. I'll be weathered, you be haggard.
Okay. It would make sense though, because I'm also close to haggard.
Yeah, it's weird.
It's beard, I'm tall and big.
Anyway,
I love animals.
over the course of the last year, and I'm sharing this information not only as a what I feel is a worthy justification for why we were absent and why over the course of the last year the quality of the podcast really kind of diminished quite a bit. I'll own it. I'll own it. I'll admit, be the first to admit I just quit giving a shit for a while because we were struggling with some shit, some serious stuff here.
Problem.
Anyway, but I also am sharing this because I believe that this will be a good entry point to a conversation that I want to have along the lines of what Mia was just reminding us of. So over the course of the last year, Austin and I initiated the dissolution of our coven. And I say we initiated it, but really, to be honest, what began the destruction of the coven, really, to be honest, was the behavior, the toxic behavior of several members of the coven. And I don't really want to get into any of that right now. I don't want to call any of these people out. I'm not naming any names. That does not do any good. That does not serve any purpose. Okay. But I wanted to talk about this a little bit because in looking at kind of what led up to that moment, in looking at what led up to those patterns of behavior and those reasons why those people ultimately did some of the very fucked up things that they did that ended up, that led to their leaving the coven, us ultimately getting to a point where we're like, okay, well, the coven has really kind of been so corrupted at this point. There really is no way to salvage this. Like we just need to we got to cut it off and just slap hot pitch over the stump. I mean, this is it. It's done. And we are rebuilding. Fortunately, we are rebuilding. We're looking very forward now to a more constructive, a very positive future with much healthier individuals, but
much more mature.
Anyway, but I wanted to talk about that, and I thought it would be a good conversation to have on the podcast because a lot of what came up over the last year or so with some of these negative behaviors really, I think, is representative of, I think, a lot of issues that people just in general have when they come into these spiritual practices, and what I'm talking about is a lot of the issues that we see around people just not doing their personal work. We talk about and have talked about a lot on the podcast around the necessity of deconditioning yourself of old limiting beliefs, of taking the time of investing in yourself to the extent that you are willing to do some healing around your old traumas, in doing the work that you need to do to recognize where you have manifestations of negative ego behavior, in sitting down and really being honest with yourself around not only what your interest in witchcraft and spirituality is, but why you would then want to connect yourself to other people around that practice. Because anytime we work with other people, things certainly get a hell of a lot more complicated. And spirituality is complicated enough already.
It's true.
But as Mia was mentioning, I wanted to talk about issues of disillusionment and problems that we see commonly with people not walking their talk. And that has been an issue that's come up just recently outside of this past stuff with the coven. Though these were issues that were also very significant in some of that as well. And there have been a couple of situations that really kind of come to mind of late, interactions that we've had with just a few people kind of around town within the community, within the pagan community here, within the area, the alternative spiritual community here. One around the issue of disillusionment. And when I'm really talking about that, and I'm sure you guys will have something to add to this as well. Please don't let me just yammer on here. I'll feel like I'm giving a lecture.
No,
But,
you have
but,
to get your building
um,
up.
But in talking about disillusionment, I guess where I'm really going with that is, and this is something we've also mentioned on prior episodes of the podcast, but we see this thing that happens where people they want so badly to consciously acknowledge the spiritual component of who they are, because there's always that part of who we are, right? And I think when we identify ourselves, that we talk about things like the spiritual component of who we are, I think a lot of people struggle to really be able to clearly identify what that is. But really, to be honest, the easiest way to identify that is that that's just any part of you that is beyond what you would identify as the mundane day-to-day aspect of your life. Right? For you, the spiritual component of your being could be the part of you that sits down and writes the book that you're working on.
Yes.
It could be the part of you that sits down and paints the painting. It could be the part of you that sits down and smokes a blunt while you play video games with your friends. But in that moment, you're at a complete centered space and fully at peace within yourself, right? It could be the part of you that experiences complete joy when you play with your children. Right? It could be the part of you that just, whatever it is, that just completely checks out when you're working in your yard or petting your dog, right? So spirituality doesn't have to be prayer. Spirituality doesn't have to be meditation. It doesn't have to be those things, right? But for what we do, those are certainly things that are a component of our spiritual practice: meditation, ritual, these kinds of things, right? And so when we talk about those things, and as we teach on those things, and as people approach us on those things, we see this thing happening where people, they want those experiences, they want that knowledge, they want that connection, but they're not willing to really invest. They're not willing to make the commitment to really do the work, to learn the way that they need to. They're not willing to be disciplined in the way that they approach what that commitment is going to be. I think most anybody would agree that anything that we really want to be able to claim in our lives, whether it be a new car or a college education or a new house or a healthy relationship or happy children or a 30-inch waist or whatever it is that you value, these are all things that are going to take discipline and commitment and time. And I think that there is this instant gratification and this easy kind of a mindset that people buy into around spirituality. And I think a huge component of it is just religion and the indoctrination of the church, right? Where people are told, like, you don't need to try, you just need to show up every Sunday and do what I tell you to. Mm-hmm. Right. And it's easy, even though it isn't, because if you make one tiny mistake, you're going to burn in hell forever. Right. So it's not really as easy as they want you to believe it is, but that's okay. That's just the lies that they tell you. Anyway, so I think that people become disillusioned because they try, they buy the book, they buy the candles, they take the class, they get the reading, they do the ritual, they whatever, but they lose steam, they lose momentum, or they get afraid, or they don't continue to push themselves, or they get lazy. Like the spell tells them that they need to use this particular herb and they don't want to use that herb because maybe it's a little more expensive or it's harder to find, so they substitute this herb instead, and
or
then
they don't have it and they just want to do the spell right now.
Exactly. And so and the thing is and we've all had that moment.
Right.
I'm sure I've absolutely had that moment where I'm like,
it's good to know your correspondence.
Shit, like, never mind, like but that's usually what I do. Like if I don't have everything the spell needs me, or that I know I need to do the thing to get exactly the result I want, I just come up with a different spell.
Yes.
I just do something different, which is totally acceptable.
People you're talking about, I don't think they even get to that point where they
haven't learned as much. Usually they haven't learned as much, or they haven't got to the point where they realize that they can even do that.
Mm-hmm.
So what I'm seeing is I'm noticing that like people are like, they want this, they kind of dive in and they rush in full force. And then for whatever reason, they don't immediately have that miracle experience, or they don't immediately become an ascended master or whatever it is. And they immediately they fold, like they cash in their chips and they bail, and then they do that and they become disillusioned on spirituality.
Yeah.
And that is tricky for the rest of us who are actually doing this at a professional level, because I think a lot of the time we spend so much time trying to not chase these people back, because we can't do that, right? We can
Yeah,
never really,
there's no way to be like,
but
hey,
we spend a lot of time, I think, with these people trying to kind of relight that fire under them.
yes.
It's
100%.
exhausting. I'm running out of gasoline over here, y'all. Like,
Well, and the thing is with these people, they also find the other side of that coin is they're constantly comparing themselves to other people.
games of comparison are so defeating.
Mhm. Well, it's like you look at someone who, all I can say is if you are one of these people who would compare yourself, you've been practicing for 10 years and you compare yourself to me. I've been doing this my entire life. I'm not saying that I have more knowledge. I'm not saying that I'm better than you, but I'm saying that we have two different walks of life. You started 10 years ago. I eat, sleep, and breathe this shit. I'm a professional witch. This is what I do, And so you, who works a 9-to-5 job, has a husband and kids, and all this other stuff, obviously your experience is going to be much different than mine. And that's okay. But you also have to understand that the reason I'm where I'm at is because I made those sacrifices of hanging out with friends on weekends, because I was like, no, this thing is more important to me right now. And I'm not saying that you need to do that, but I'm saying like you can't compare.
To some extent, though, you might.
I think that's where gatekeeping and stuff comes in, where
Mhm.
we're not. I think people are starting to enter into a discourse where they're realizing that calling people like us, who like think you need to earn something, you have to put your heart into something, commit to something. If you don't stand for something, you're gonna fall for it.
Yeah, if
you
you don't
gotta
stand
have
for
something.
anything,
That's the
stand for nothing.
you fall for anything, and
Yeah.
and the discourse that I've noticed, it hasn't quite begun that I've noticed, but the discourse is leaning towards it, to where people are like, you know what? I am a fucking gatekeeper.
Mhm.
And it's like, I kind of get that. Like, not in a pretentious way, not in a, I am a grand ceremonial magician, a member of the OTO, and I not I love you on my loaded cat. You are literally like, I love you. You're my grandpa. You just don't know it. But there's a lot of members of groups like that, and y'all know, if you're a member out there, y'all know it's like a Magic the Gathering out there, but more instantly. Maybe I shouldn't have said that, but
No, it's true that there does seem to be
there's an incel thing.
there's a huge incel issue in that. Yes, in
the Western ceremonial magician, the high magician area, like that kind of gatekeeping is gross.
Yeah, it is.
But if you're like this, like I grew up in it, I eat, sleep, and breathe this, and I'm teaching you a thing that was very near and dear to my family, I think you have a right to be a little bit of a gatekeeper.
Yeah.
And I think that can prevent your own disillusionment as a teacher, but also it can act as a G check to people who are trying to, I want to learn everything right now.
Yeah.
And I want to go, I don't know what the equivalent would be in, and stuff, but I want to go straight to the Abermelon working. It's like you haven't even done the LBRP little, what are you doing? You're gonna blow you're gonna blow your sockets and get yourself crazy, or you'll not get any results and you'll end up what you're talking about, completely disillusioned, and maybe even go back to church and go, all of this shit is evil.
Yeah.
Because I had a panic attack during a ritual and I didn't want to face why that now I sound so mean. I guess I have been really angry about this and I didn't realize it.
No, I don't think you sound mean. I think you sound, see, these are the voices of, I think, people who are legitimately, like, who are really concerned about this, though.
Yeah.
Because we
I
see
think
that.
we're gonna hear
We
more
see that
discourse
happen
on
a
it.
lot, though. I think, you know, the issues around gatekeeping. I always thought, and we've talked about gatekeeping on the podcast before, and I think really what it comes down to is what's the intent behind the gatekeeping?
Yeah.
Because gatekeeping in and of itself is not a bad thing. Every community, it doesn't matter whether it be spiritual, it could be anything. It could be spiritual, it could be any kind of community.
Yeah.
Has gatekeeping as a mechanism that just is a component of community, you know. But is the gatekeeping that's being done, is it rooted in anything that is, I guess basically, like, what's the intention behind the gatekeeping? You know, is it positive intent? Is it there to protect said community from anything that would really truly be harmful in nature, you know, or is it rooted in
gatekeeping could resolve the problem of these kids and they're not always kids, but I say kids like spiritual kids, like from stopping these kids from running into a wall and then they go, oh, I don't know, this felt like what you're talking about.
I'm not sure where that is concerned. I don't know that gatekeeping or the building more gates or bigger gates would be the best answer, because there's this odd phenomenon that I've noticed, and I think that this is a generational thing. Like I've noticed that the last two generations, like Gen Z, I'm about to sound like a grumpy old fart, but I've noticed that Gen Z and the generation
Alpha.
Alpha, yes, thank you, the one after that, I've noticed that the young people involved in those generations, and I'm not trying to shit talk those generations, because, you know, no one generation is better than any other.
No.
Right. But I've noticed that those generations in particular, they do seem to struggle a lot with spiritual practices and the occult and magical disciplines and these kinds of things, because they are, I think what it is, to be honest, is I think that they're, from the time they are born, they are so inundated with information.
Yes.
And I think what it does is, I think it sets up this weird dynamic in them where they lose the ability to filter
or appreciate.
Because it's like, I clicked the button, isn't that enough work?
So,
but, you know?
Yeah, well, yeah, they lose the ability to filter. And when you say appreciate, I wouldn't use that term, but I would use something very similar. It's not appreciate. I think it's almost like there's almost like this sense of, I hate that I'm going to use this word because this isn't really what it is either, but it's almost like this sense of entitlement. And if that's not it, it's not that they're entitled. It's that they're so used to having all of the information all the time that when you tell them
that is entitlement, but you're
them,
trying to entitlement with the happy accent.
Well, I mean, I guess what I'm trying to say, what I'm trying to say is, like, they're so used to having all the information all the time that when you sit down or you kind of have a conversation with them and you tell them, like, oh, well, you know, you are going to have to actually look a little bit deeper.
They have
you're going to have to dig a little bit deeper. You're going to actually have to sit down and you're going to have to do some mindful practice and figure out what this means to you as an individual, and not just wait for this person on TikTok to tell you what it means to you, right? Like, when you have those conversations, because those are the conversations I have with people.
I have that all the time.
And they say, well, I listen to the activation codes. I've had people sit down with me for readings and like, well, can you tell me? And I'll be like, you know, and this card is indicating things are moving in this direction. I'd look for A, B, and C and be prepared for A, B, and C, or whatever you want to three. And they're like, well, I've been following the angel numbers and I'm just wondering, like, can you tell me what signs? I had someone ask me what signs to look for. And I was like, I was very confused in that language. But apparently there's people on TikTok who will say, you will see a dog on the screen in 30 minutes and then you'll know he's the one. And
And that's
so just
that
to give
is-
you an example, what these kids are dealing with, though.
Oh, I know, absolutely. And that's where I say that's another symptom of how I think they're so inundated with things, they lose the ability to filter,
Yeah.
you know,
Discern.
and yeah, exactly.
Discernment.
Like they're being, each generation is successfully being deprogrammed, or I should say reprogrammed. And we're losing the ability, like no more common sense, no more ability to discern, you know, and that's how the kind of the powers that be, I'm gonna sound like a grumpy old fart and a conspiracy theorist, but the powers that be, that's how they want it. They want us to they want us to lack common sense, they want us to lack discernment, because then we're easier to control,
Yeah.
right? So then they can tell us whatever they want,
Yeah.
right? And we'll buy it. Okay.
Like the
And
people
so
who think obvious pictures are, well, then there is AI. There are problems of reality. Reality is shifting to where all of us won't be able to really tell reality from fiction. That's scary to think about. But
well, as a chaos magician, and if you look at the philosophies of that, I'm this is going to sound super contrary to shit I've said on the podcast in past, because we've actually had.
You're raising your
Well, I'm
consciousness.
not. Well, so no, let me clarify what I'm about to say, because this is a little bit of a tangent. Okay, on
You're
the
having
podcast,
hallucinate.
we've had yes, I'm dialed all the way up to I'm sixth dimensional consciousness now. Anyway.
I'm 9.
Anyway, someday I wish I'll be too as evolved as you are. Anyway, no, what I was going to say is, in past episodes, we talked about these things where you talk about people who like are able to like reality shift and things like that
Oh, shit.
as a phenomena. Well, it's not real. Like it's like these
they're
things,
psyching themselves.
yeah,
It's not like
where it's like you hear these things where like, these kids are like I shifted reality and I spent the afternoon in my favorite anime, shit like that, and a lot of it is I think it's either evidence of what I want to say is like some fairly serious like mental.
Maybe it's a new kind of mental
instability.
thing.
Yeah, I think it's like it could either be like some sort of mental
real.
health issue, or
Dissociative.
dissociative behavior, or it could just be a bunch of kids that like I just want to be special and fit in too. But I will say though, again, kind of shifting it back, because in those episodes we've talked about it, and I just want to go on record and saying like that kind of reality shifting, I'm just gonna go on record and say I'm sorry, I'm not a believer. I do not feel whatever kind of spiritual powers you cultivate. I'm sorry, I do not believe that you can shift reality and spend an afternoon in your favorite anime. No.
You can watch your favorite anime on Netflix. Right?
You could drop mushrooms and sit and watch an afternoon of your favorite anime, and it might feel like you're right there in the anime. Sure, yeah, why not, right? But
take mushrooms and collapse reality in a way that you would be collapsing your surface level understandings of reality.
Yeah.
But then you have to rebuild it. So it depends on what these people, if they're straight up saying, I teleport into different realities.
Yeah.
That's weird.
That's what they're saying.
But like, if you mean like, oh no, I'm healing into a new version of myself, that would make sense.
These are people that are saying like, I exist as who I am right now, only I've ceased to be in this dimension, and I now exist in this dimension.
Well, there's going to be more atheists.
This anime, right? Absolutely.
There's going to be
because people hear this shit and they're like,
because I would be like, oh fuck those people.
Yeah, exactly. Like people hear that shit and they're like, oh no, this spirituality has gone way over the edge, right? Or if this is what y'all are into, no fucking thank you. Exactly. But anyway, so I want to go on record and say no, absolutely not. But as a chaos magician, okay, I want to say that the philosophies of chaos magic teach those of us who practice it that my reality must be a different reality than yours, because I cannot live your reality. I believe that. And it doesn't mean that you and I are inhabiting different realities. It just means that our perceptions of the reality that we are sharing, that we are co-creating, will be different.
You're spiritually Venn diagramming.
Yeah, you too. You're in there somewhere, maybe. Anyway.
I'm not even high. We just had really good food. I cooked dinner, and I think we're all just like vibing.
You got the itis?
Yeah.
I don't think I have the itis.
Nah, I don't have the itis. I'm good. Anyway, sorry, a bit of a tangent there. I'll bring us back now. Anyway, so disillusionment. So I wanted to bring that up because I wanted to talk about not only disillusionment, but I also wanted to talk about people not walking their talk, because I think these things are kind of related.
Yes.
You know, and in the last week or so, we've had a couple of situations where we've run into people who were kind of claiming to be a part of a particular practice, or they wanted to be they wanted to do a particular thing, or I'm sorry, they wanted a particular thing, and then in the moment where they should have been able to reach for that thing and take it and say it and do it and be the thing and have the thing or whatever it was in that moment, they fucked it up and they failed royally. You know, and in that moment, you know, and in that situation, Mia and I, in two of these situations,
I was witnessing.
you were there firsthand. I missed the second one because I left the room, but the other one I was there firsthand with Austin. And so, and in each of those situations, we were like, it came down to one of those moments where it was like, wait a minute. Up so now, or based off every other experience that I've had with you, as not just a person, but as a spiritual practitioner, you've told me this, and this about you and your spiritual practice and what you value and where you place your power and your belief. And then this situation came up that should have been something that slid very neatly into all of this for you.
Yeah.
It should have been a very easy thing for you to claim or do, and you chickened out.
It's like saying, oh yeah, I can do CPR. Like, I'm CPR certified, dude. Like, I got you covered. And somebody's actually choking and you're like,
yeah, exactly. Yeah. Or maybe you do know CPR, but you freeze.
oh shit.
Right?
Yeah,
because I think in at least one of those situations, I think that's what happened.
I literally have no idea what you're talking about.
Well, don't worry about it,
You'll have to
because
inform
well,
me.
don't worry.
There's one they weren't there for.
Yeah, you weren't there for the second one, so it's okay. We'll talk.
I don't remember the first one.
You're okay. Well, you weren't there for the first one.
Oh, okay.
But
We're
anyway,
living separate realities right now.
Yeah.
so it's a co-created and shared reality, but we have different perceptions of it.
Your perception is of the first story, and I have the perception of the second.
Well, my perception right now is that there is a perception of the first
then after the podcast and we share notes,
then we will
then we will all
be
have a shared perception of both stories, and we will be in a completely shared reality.
Fancy.
Yeah.
I like it.
Okay. Anyway, so where I'm going with that, though, is that in each of those situations, and I want to be really clear, I'm not trying to make sure the people in these situations are just.
You're not
they're
giving
just-
enough detail where
they're
I don't
just-
think it would.
Well,
hurt
no.
anyone.
What I was going to say is, like, these are just humans that are just doing their best,
They are doing
right?
their best.
Just like the rest of us, they're just doing their best. I am not trying to crap on these people at all.
It's
Okay.
what it, but it's the
It's-
theme of what
It's the
is
example.
happening.
It's
Yes.
utilizing this as an example, right? And I guess again, kind of going back to the point is like if you're going to claim something, if you're going to say you work with a particular goddess, if you are going to claim the title badass witch,
Yeah.
you know, if you're going to do these things, and the very moment you find yourself in a situation where you are kind of challenged to handle a situation in exactly the way that that goddess would handle that situation or would want you to
Or
handle that
badass
situation,
witch would handle the situation.
and you chicken out and run out of the room like a frightened child, oh, you fucked up. And all I can say in that moment is, and you're human and it's okay, because God, boy, we all fuck it up. I fuck it up all the time. Okay, and that's okay. But in that situation, that would tell me that you probably need to check in with your practice. You need to check in with what you're claiming. And you for sure need to probably check in with your goddess. Because in that situation, she's probably going to have some shit to say to you. So you probably disappointed her a little bit too.
Mhm.
If you want to claim to be a badass witch, and then you are tasked, you are given incentive and instruction, and you are prepared to do a spell to bind or to send an energy at a sexual predator. And in that moment, you chicken out because you don't
You're
want the
scared of fate.
karma.
Yeah.
You don't want to deal with the karma. One, we're witches. We don't deal with karma. If you are a Buddhist or a Hindu, or some other flavors of
Easter.
Eastern mysticism, karma is in your wheelhouse. If you are practicing any flavor of more traditional witchcraft,
You are the instrument of
we
your own.
we don't
karma.
deal with karma. That's something you can absolutely choose. You can choose to incorporate karma into your practice. But if you're going to refuse to do any kind of baneful working on somebody who definitely deserves it after having claimed to be a badass witch,
Mhm.
because you're afraid the karma's going to get you, you really can't call yourself a badass witch anymore. And I'm not trying to say that you have to be doing baneful magic to be a badass witch. You
No.
don't. But given the circumstances, right?
It's one thing. It's one thing to go, I would rather not do a baneful working because I don't feel that is necessary. You know, I think this would be the better route.
Yeah,
That's
that's
still
different.
walking your walk and talking your talk.
Like, I don't participate in baneful working, but I understand what you're trying to accomplish, and I will contribute to that
In my own way.
in my own way.
Oh,
Yes.
okay. So maybe I'm
That's
not. Maybe
okay.
maybe I
No,
didn't. Maybe I didn't explain
But
this clearly.
but
enough.
then on the other
You
side
did,
of that,
but he's adding
yeah, I'm
another
adding,
layer
yeah.
on.
But then on the other end of that, you can't sit there and say, well, I'm a badass witch, but I'm not going to do this because I'm afraid of karma.
That's the point.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's like I'm a
Fear
badass
has
witch.
no
Can't
place
free.
in
Yeah,
witchcraft.
I'm a badass witch, but my power is still
I'm
limited by
s-
karma.
I'm so afraid that if I do this baneful working on this serial rapist, that I'm gonna get the backlash from it threefold.
What does
One,
threefold even mean?
the threefold law does not mean what you put out comes back to you 3 times bad or 3 times good or 3 times neutral. The threefold law is a guideline. It is ask yourself before doing any form of magic, before utilizing or tapping into your magics. Is it true? Is it kind? Is it necessary? And if majority rules, boom.
Is it true? Is it kind? Is it necessary?
Is it true? Is it justified? Or is it necessary? Or it has to be kind? I don't want to be
But
kind.
necessary would fall under justification.
Okay.
Yeah. So let's say you're going to do a working.
Like, I put a curse on a rapist.
Yes. Okay. So was what he did true?
Yes.
Okay.
Is a convicted rapist that is
Is
globally
what
known.
you're going to be doing kind in any way, shape, or form?
Kind to any future potential victims.
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly.
Okay. Is it necessary to do this on a magical level because the court system has failed?
Yeah.
The law of man failed, therefore the law of magic and witchcraft reign.
Boom.
There you go. There's a rule of 3. All right.
Have it covered.
So anyway, so I wanted to talk about those things and bring those up because those are things that have kind of popped up here. And our episode, we're kind of running a little long on this one again. But before in bringing those up though, because again, we're trying to be more constructive, right? So do you guys have any ideas for our saltines when we look at issues of disillusionment and again, kind of that dynamic of like making sure that you're walking your talk? What are some things that you guys have found helpful? I've got some too that I'm going to volunteer, but what are some things you have found helpful that would maybe be of use to our saltines, like things to help them like to avoid moments where they feel like they're faltering in their practice or they're feeling disillusioned?
It's okay to take breaks if you're feeling disillusioned. Like it's okay to just allow yourself to go, you know what? Not right now. And then take a step back and do the bare minimum. If you're already doing the bare minimum, cool, take a step back. But also be honest with yourself. Honesty with yourself is so important. And that is, when I say honesty, I'm not talking about like, oh, well, I've been working a lot, so that's why I'm tired and why I haven't done the thing. No, it's, I've been tired, and though I've had time to do it, I've chosen not to. It is being that honest with you, with yourself.
And just as you
And
match
owning
that
it up.
honesty, own up to that shit. Like, no, I fucked up. but also giving yourself the grace and compassion in those moments so that you can say, okay, I fucked up right there. Whatever, I can do it now.
Exactly.
Let's do it right now. Just because I fucked up that once doesn't mean I need to keep fucking up.
Exactly. And remember that your practice is going to change and evolve. And so in those moments where you feel like you're not walking the walk, maybe you've changed.
Oh my goodness, sir.
Sorry.
Ironic.
Maybe you've evolved. But also maybe you're just being lazy. And that's okay.
Yeah, we all need those
For a
lazy
minute.
moments too. Yeah.
But
Yeah,
when
just make sure you have a plan to get yourself back up.
yeah, when a
Start-
couple of
starting
days
again.
of lazy practice or a couple of spells of lazy practice turns into months of lazy practice, then years of lazy practice, eventually to your altar doesn't really get touched and it or it's dusty or the last time you did anything was just because I guess I should do something. If it no longer means anything, then you need to check yourself. Because that's something that I found a lot with that was happening in the coven was it was a lot of going through the process and going through the structure and the steps and no one there was no emotion. It was I have to refill this water because I was told to or because it's what we do. And it's like, okay, well that's great, but are you feeling it?
Yeah.
Like, are you feeling you know what, I would like to do this for you.
Mhm.
You know, no, then fucking why? You know, if you're not deriving any joy, strength, peace, power, stability, if you're not deriving anything from this practice, why are you doing
Yeah,
it?
why continue to do it? Because
Because
you
then
just
you're
want to be
gonna
able to say,
yeah, and then you're just
You're a
gonna
badass.
continue being full of shit.
yeah,
And you know, I had several customers that I am very happy I did not give us a bad review for yesterday.
Oh geez.
Because
Okay.
like
yeah,
I was grumpy and they came in and someone bought like I'm talking it was easily over 20 chime candles because
they want to make
they were gonna do cord cuttings
the TikTok ones,
and
which is actually not one.
I went okay and they were wandering around had no idea what like they were just terrified the entire time. They were just emanating. They
Well,
were
that's probably because you were being a grumpy ass.
I didn't say anything to begin with. I just said hello and let me know if you need anything. And they were just radiating like, I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing. Like, I am literally so lost. And so when I'm like, is there anything I can help you with? Can I direct you towards something? And they were like, and I was like, I see you're getting a lot of chime candles. Are you doing cord cuttings? The TikTok cord cuttings where you're tying candles together and creating unnecessary fire hazards?
Yeah,
Well, my friend's an energy worker. I'm like, so an energy worker who needs candles to cut cords. This tells me that y'all are just trying out TikTok things, and that's fine.
yeah.
But if you actually want it to work, then you should probably do these things.
When energy work, if you are an energy worker, I think one of energy manipulation 101 is you learning how to do psychic surgeries.
Yeah.
So why would an energy worker tell someone they need to do a witchcraft or like cord cutting, which as far as I understand the TikTok cord cutting thing, the 2 charms, that's what like considered not working in like a group
That
working?
that is
Is
a
a southern tradition.
no. That's what people are claiming, and it's not. What it is it is sympathetic magic. Ideally, if you're doing it correctly, but these people aren't. They're tying 2
It's a-
candles together.
It's an odd twist on a banishing
Yeah.
style.
Oh, okay.
But that's not the same as a cord cutting.
Exactly. And so, yeah, though Jasper did send me a very aesthetically pleasing video where someone like actually got shears and they like lit the shears on fire and like actually cut the strings between the candles. And I was like,
Cool. They put some oomph into it.
Yeah,
I was like, all
yeah,
right.
yeah, that's yeah.
You using that theater degree.
Mm-hmm.
I see you. Good for you. You know, so that's what I would say. I rambled. Sorry.
It's okay. I think it's easy to do. And I mean, in order to prevent disillusionment, in order to prevent yourself from getting so far up your own ass that when someone does just inform you of something that's pretty simple and well known, and then you are like, your whole world is falling apart because you had thought this one thing. That had happened to me several times, being growing up Mormon in a mystical Mormon household, and my dad, these are the right things, these are the way, and then I learn other things from books, and I'm like, this destroys my entire foundation of my reality because this doesn't mean this and this. So what it always comes back to for me is best summarized by Kim Krantz herself.
Hmm.
She best summarizes the point of in her deck and the book for her Wild Unknown Alchemy.
Okay.
She summarizes that we are all alchemists. We are all on some kind of magical path, whether or not you're aware of the magic or not, right? But if you go down this path of like, I'm so far up my ass, and then you hit a wall and you're like, oh, I'm going to go back to church, because I'm just so frustrated with how this turned out. And, or you're like, I'm this badass. And then someone's like, okay, can you do this badass thing for me? And they're like, oh, no, I could never. It's to go back into your laboratory as an alchemist, go into your laboratory, which is your mind. And it's okay to say, I don't know.
Yeah.
And
It is more
it's
respectable and honorable.
healing. It can be
Yeah.
healing when you get disillusioned, before you turn into a Kat Von D or a Doreen Virtue.
Yeah.
These people got into, they were practices they didn't fully understand. They were getting in for the Kat Von D's case, she's getting into the aesthetic, she's kind of following her heart, and then she trips over her own power and abilities and gets so zapped and so scared by it that she's like, oh no, everything's satanic and all. It's like, we don't even believe in Satan.
Yeah.
It's so, I don't remember where I was going, but before you turn into one of those people who renounce everything, before you hit that next threshold of turning your lead into gold, just say, I don't know. I don't have that information.
And it's okay.
And it's okay.
Let's find out together.
Yeah.
Like if I go into a shop and I'm like, hey, you run a witchcraft store, I'm gonna ask you, what candle would you use for a solar working? I want to hear your feedback. But if I'm coming in,
What kind of candle do you feel you should use for something?
well, and see, and that's a good sales tactic. That's a great sales tactic. And maybe I go, well, the sun, I just, I just real sad. I want blue. And it's like, maybe let's adjust that.
I'd be
Um,
like, you're wrong.
Yes. But like, if these are practices that are new to you, go into your local shops. And if your shop owners in your area are, you can see that they love their shop and they're proud of their shop, tell them, hey, I want to do this thing, but I've only seen it on TikTok. When I saw it on TikTok, they did ABC. Can you tell me what's up with this? And there's a lot of new stores. There's a lot of new metaphysical stores. So you guys got to be able to discern, is this a 25-year-old, very well bankrolled store that is opened because of corporate money behind it from her family? Somebody who's 25 years old, they're probably not going to be the best source of fixing this shit. So you want to find old people.
It's true.
Sorry.
You know, it's not that, you know,
Say, I don't know, and then go look for the old
I agree with you.
witches.
There's something to say about time and experience.
We're angry, but when we see your heart is on fire about it, we can see that your heart is on fire about it, and it makes all the difference in the world.
I
You
will.
could tell me, you could tell me the weirdest bullshit that you're trying to do ever, but if I see that you're excited about
Yeah.
it and your heart is in it, like I really want to, I'm like, fuck yeah, let's do it. Let's
true.
figure it out.
Yeah.
That's true. Yeah.
I will say, as someone who has been on the receiving end of the "you're so young, you don't know that."
That's true too.
I
didn't mean to.
It's always best to find someone with wisdom and experience, which do not necessarily denote chronological age. Because
That's
I
true.
can tell you right now, I know some old biddies who
Don't know shit.
literally are like, I have had testicles longer. My testicles have been dropped longer than they have been out of the
practicing.
church.
Yes. No, and we deal with that particularly in Utah.
Mm.
You know, people just leaving the church, but then they seem real wise and they get some information and they'll be coming to the shop and they get all this information, come to
Yeah.
classes,
It's true.
and then all of a sudden they're the master of something.
Yeah.
And it's
My
like,
favorite is when people learn things from you and then they try and use them against you. And it's funny because it just takes me back to the scene in How Dare You Use My Own Spells Against Me, Potter. And I'm like, you.
but yeah, so I shouldn't have been ageist, like, because
Yeah,
I've been practicing since 2002. I'm 35 years old, but I have been playing with my cards. 2002. I got an official tarot deck in 2003. Okay. That's what I say. And you can sit on the number of years that is and talk to me for a few sentences and see if I can give you something. Okay. But if you talk to somebody and they're like well, what do you feel you need? I want to work on, getting over my social anxiety, da da da. What are you feeling drawn to? And they're not spitting off any sort of facts about anything.
Yeah.
That's when you need to be able to judge a character that way. Now I'm fucking rambling.
No, you're good. No, you're
It's
good. You're
Mercury
good.
Richard.
No, you're good. I think that actually that's kind of a good kind of connection to the next point about like walking our talk.
Yes.
Because you talked about how age isn't necessarily a determination. And then we'll wrap it up for tonight after this. Unless you guys have anything really pressing that you want to include before we go tonight. But you mentioned like age isn't really a determination, but you talked about like how some like older, as Austin termed, old biddies who are who have kind of appointed themselves elders, that they really haven't done a whole lot to claim that title or earn it.
Yeah.
And certainly a lot of the time don't really have the knowledge for it, and that's because a lot of them
They can't build a word effective enough.
they haven't really walked their talk.
Yeah.
They're not really what they claim to be. And so if you
Or
guys
so
had
fragile,
you guys
seems
had any
breaks them.
guidance for our saltines on just that, like how to walk your talk.
You walk your talk. It is literally, if
It's okay to say I don't know.
it's okay to say it, I don't know. Here's the thing. If you are one of those people who seems to think that in order to be a witch, you need a god or a goddess, okay, great, good for you. Cool. If that's your jam, what would your god or your goddess do? How would they handle this situation? That is how you bring that energy into your everyday life. When I'm faced with something, I don't sit and wring my hands and go, oh no, what would Gemini Austin with a Virgo rising and a Virgo moon do?
I did that for
Oh no.
just for a few minutes.
We all have those moments.
I'll worry, but when it comes to those things, it's like there are people who will just sit there and just but the first thing they're going to do is they want to do magic, and their first instinct for magic is never going to be anything other than like, oh, I need to do a cleansing, I need to do a protection spell.
Yeah.
And it's like, or you should sit for a moment And if you're working with a god, ask yourself, how would this deity approach this situation? And do some mindfulness. So for me, how would Hecate handle the situation? Okay, well, I'm going to sit here for a second, which is actually what Hecate would do. Hecate would go, I'm going to take a second. Just going to breathe. What does it feel like? And actually go step by step and allow yourself to do that. And yeah, and it's great. It'll work really effectively for you. If you're a type of witch, magical practitioner who doesn't work with gods, who would be secular, then sit and figure out how you could handle it outside of the box. Because essentially what is happening when you are being faced with a decision or a choice or something you need to do, you are being put into a box. You're being put into a box. Here's this cage. Here's the line. You need to figure out a way to get around it, move through it, go over it, go under it, what? And if you can actually just take a minute, step back, look at it from an outside perspective and go, okay, what is the most clear path out of here that is going to cause the least amount of damage to me and those around me? Then you can start to negotiate a plan there. So that's how you talk the talk and walk the walk.
Yeah.
You say that you're a badass witch and you're an ally, probably stop sleeping with white supremacists.
Yeah,
If-
witchcraft is political.
Yeah,
I'm sorry
if
to
you're
throw it
like,
to you.
I want to learn conjure root work, yet have an altar set up to Norse pagan deities.
Well,
Yeah,
there's a
if you're-
certain type of Norse pagan worshipper.
Probably don't do that.
Yeah, if you're focusing a lot of your paganistic work and worship on Norse traditions, you probably don't want to focus a whole lot of additional work on American kinds of folk magic.
Yeah, no.
They're not gonna be happy with your spirits.
You're kind of you're
And you know what? That's what our next episode
Your
should
focus.
be on. Is what like decolonizing your work,
yeah.
like your experiences of decolonizing.
We could do that. We could do that. We've talked about that before, but I love no.
We should do it.
I love
should
to
do
talk. We haven't talked about it in a long
Right
time.
now,
Yeah.
there is a battle that we are seeing
Yeah.
where white supremacy is showing its face
Yeah.
in the discomfort of Black excellence.
Yeah.
And Black excellence is a topic in CRT because of how much harder a person of color has to work to attain something.
Yeah.
They have to be excellent at a thing
Mhm.
that a white
Yeah, the
person
white guy can be like
can be
mediocre. Yeah.
that's why people are upset
Yeah.
over Reagan's Olympics performance and
Yeah.
and that's really why they're upset.
Yeah.
But anyways, we're also white and from Utah, so we're trying to be the best allies we can. So we're definitely any people of color who would have any experience or stuff, shoot at us. Let us know,
Yeah.
like what are you seeing in that whole area of
Yeah,
decolonizing?
Yeah, send us your comments and your questions.
Yeah.
Things that you would like us to share because we welcome the dialogue.
Yeah.
And we admit our voices are not always the voices that need to be put forward.
Yeah, 100%. I will say that decolonization is something that is very interesting because I'm sitting here as someone who likes to think that their craft is fairly decolonized and their practice is fairly decolonized.
You do
But-
a lot of work on
But then I'm sitting and I'm looking over at the ancestor altar, and I got my Big Mama doll. I got some St. Michael. I got some other things, but like that was my mama. That was my culture. That was my
Yeah.
culture growing up. And so for me, it's not just a decolonization. It is realizing that it's imposter syndrome,
Well, if you're going down that line, I was thinking like realizing that even our roots come from colonization. So we might only be able to decolonize so far.
Yeah. But that's a very good point, though. When you look at issues
Yeah.
of decolonization, you do kind of owe it to yourself.
Yes.
You have to go beyond your practice. You have to dig deeper. You've got to look into the things that you have brought into your practice from other sources. That can be familial, that could be cultural, that could be whatever those other sources are, because all of those things are also going to have been colonized in some sense. And it is likely to say, though your grandmother was a delightful woman, that components of her spiritual practice also had, I'm sure, huge influences from white systems of white supremacy and other things. That's just, I'm not saying she was a white supremacist.
No,
but white supremacy runs through every facet of our fucking world.
it's literally, as I've been on this whole, I've been on a fucking rabbit hole shit, realizing how white supremacy will hide in shit. And well, the OTO unfortunately is an example, because you wouldn't, you read Crowley's works, it's like, yeah, he didn't have the most politically correct verbiage, it was Victorian England, but like if you brought him to now, it's like we don't know what kind of person he would have been. Maybe he would have been an ally, maybe he would have been an asshole, but there are veins of people in these more Western ceremonial traditions who just, it sneaks that white supremacy. All of a sudden you hit a wall and you're like, wait, this is fascist shit. What the fuck are you doing?
Well, and that pops up in so many different facets. I mean, there's been there's so much documented evidence now of like that pipeline from like white supremacist ideology to like the New Age spiritual movement.
Oh my God, yes.
And I like to draw a lot of attention to that, not because I'm trying to pick on the New Age community, because I know I do that. I know I pick on the New Agers, and I'm trying really hard not to do that. I really am trying to be more inclusive of those spiritual practices, because I recognize that those are spiritual practices that are still
They're jumping off points.
Exactly. That's exactly.
Eventually, you should be aiming to grow out of
points of starting. Those are points of beginning for those people, hopefully, and they will move beyond that into something that is more sustainable and real. But I like to draw attention to that, because the New Age community is the worst. I think those spiritualities and ideologies are the worst for perpetuating the image of love and light, and high vibration, and and all those things. And then you find out beneath that, like, no, everything this is based on is hatred and elitism and classism and capitalism and misogyny and racism, and and these are all these things that are rooted in this,
and the big cancer of white supremacy as it is today.
And so it's really unfortunate, but all things that we can certainly talk about on future episodes. So
how do we decolonize? What are some decolonizing work? I think would be a cool topic.
I think that's a good idea. Let's all do some research in the next couple weeks and bring some to our next episode. Our next episode, we're going to actually be doing our retrospective on our first with Mia. Checking in on what's gone on with some of those astrological alignments, the ones that we're seeing this week.
Put in the chat, I know the chat, but the comments, your experiences energetically over, since the 10th or whatever.
And then we'll be checking in with that. Austin will, I'm sure, have another fabulous energetic exercise for us
that hopefully will not be disrupted.
Well, we'll see. We'll try. We'll see what management is up to that evening. Yes, and then once we've got all that, then we can certainly, I think it would be a good conversation, I think, to talk a little bit about, maybe present some proactive, some affirming kinds of ideas, and like these are constructive ways that we can all be doing to deconditioning our practices and things that we all need to be working at. I think that's one of those things. It's almost like I was having this conversation with someone earlier. It's almost like enlightenment. Like, you talk about the process of enlightenment, and when you have that conversation with certain people, they think like, oh, enlightenment is like that moment where all of a sudden everything just clicks and you're an enlightened being. And it's like, no, enlightenment is like a process
Yeah.
Like enlightenment is a
It's
process.
their whole life.
You know, and exactly. And it's something like almost kind of like it never really stops.
Yeah.
You know, and that's kind of what deconditioning ourselves of things like
Yeah.
that, like decolonizing our practices and these things like there's no one moment where you're ever really done with that.
Mhm.
Like you can be the best ally, you can do all your work and think you're in the clear, and then like years down the line you're going to have a moment where you do the thing or the thought comes to your brain and you're like, holy shit, I'm right back to where I was then.
Shit. Yeah.
Because it's still there, you know, and it's
Consistency.
work that's never done.
Yeah.
You know, and so even people like Austin who have been doing this for like 500 years
Yep.
still need to be working actively to decolonize his practice.
That's true.
But still being able to hold on to the beauty of it from
Yeah.
being able to gatekeep in a healthy way.
Yeah.
Gatekeep it.
Yeah. Well, and I think, you know, as odd as this might sound, because decolonizing our practices from these kinds of things like white supremacy and patriarchy and this kind of shit, misogyny, this kinds of shit, right? I think while that is absolutely something that is for sure, that's serious work. Like that's serious work. You know, and it's something that we need to be diligent about. But I also think that there's something kind of fun about that kind of work.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, think outside of the
like
box.
that can be enjoyable, you know, like I love being able to look at something and say like, oh my God, I used to do this thing in my spiritual practice. And then when I learned that it was something that was rooted in this bullshit tradition from this culture where they don't like people of color, or it was something that was like practiced because it related to this old thing that was like anti-woman or whatever that was, right? And I become aware of that. And I was like, oh my God, now that has blown my practice wide open to do this instead. You know, and it's like, and I find that it's such a cool way, like it expands my spiritual practice. It gives me the ability to be creative and imaginative with new ways to do things. You know, it makes my spiritual practice more my own. You know, it fires me up to learn more.
Yes.
You know, in addition to being able to let go of the old shit that probably wasn't working really very well for me to begin with. It couldn't have been. If it was rooted in all that toxic old shit, it can't really be working very well. And two, it's something that shouldn't be perpetuated. So I don't know. Anyway, now I'm rambling. It was my turn to ramble again.
I love it. I'll rambled.
Anyway. Well, I don't have anything else to talk about tonight. And we've kept Mia here fairly late again. So
yes. Very good. I'm happy.
All right, everyone. Have a good day, have a good evening, and we will see you next time.
Bye.